Hi there everybody. So today's question, how do I organise my data in Lua? Well, the answer is tables. Let's take a look. Hi there everybody, and a massive welcome today. So tables. Tables are Lua's primary data structure, of which is used for organising a whole host of data within a LuaScript. So what is the purpose of tables? I guess, well, really the purpose of tables solves a problem such that when you have variables that relate to one another, for instance in a record. So an example of this will probably be, for instance, a user. So a user can have a user name and can also have a user ID. They can be separate. For instance, one would be the front-facing name, the actual person's name that would appear on screen, for instance. And the other one would maybe be a user identifier, maybe something that you reference in a database in the back end, maybe, or how you reference with another system externally. So you could potentially have different variables in your script. Name and ID would be primary identifiers for those variables. But the problem then lies is what happens when you have multiple users? Well, you could obviously define name 1 and ID 1, and then name 2 and ID 2, and these is 4 different variables. But obviously this becomes very inefficient, and of course we're very much limited to knowing exactly how many users we can have up front as we write this script. So that's therefore when tables start to come in. Let's take a look at how we can actually write these up. So as with all different data types in Lua, we can of course define whether this is global or local. In this case we're going to define that this is local. A new video is going to be coming very soon on scoping modifiers such as local and what kind of effect that has upon variables in your LuaScript. But for the moment, let's try and work on a local variable and just assume that that's the type that we're going to work with. So we're going to define a local variable for, I don't know, users we'll call it, and we're going to define this to start with as an empty table. So we've got our users, and we've said that this sits within 2 curly braces. The curly braces is what's called a table constructor. So this tells Lua this is a table. At the moment it's got nothing in it, but we can define those as we go ahead. But for the moment, that's exactly how you define a table structure. At the moment it's got no users within it, but let's fix that up. So what we can have is users, and we can have name, and let's say Danny, and then from that point we can also have ID, and we'll assign that to a number. I'll say that my user ID is number 1, of course. So we now have a particular user. In actual fact, that's a badly named variable. I'm going to change users to user Danny. So therefore now we have a structure of user Danny, which has a name and an identifier. So we've actually declared those variables, name and ID, but we've aggregated them together in a particular structure. Now we can reference them using the user Danny variable. This is much neater in comparison to having 2 different variables. Now I can just have the one, and that one kind of references the 2 within it. It's almost like an aggregate structure, a way that we can handle that particular piece of data, and therefore we can hand off the table user Danny to several different functions, or maybe assign it to another variable so somebody else can access it. And it's a neat way of keeping all your stuff together. So how do we access our data once we've actually gone ahead and we've defined our variable? Well, that's very simple. A lot of languages use what's called dot notation, and I'll show you exactly how that works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reference my user Danny variable in LuaScript here, and of course Script Assist is coming out and telling us, yep, user Danny is something that you have available. And at that point I can just press the dot key. The dot key then invoke Script Assist again, and Script Assist already knows from our really intelligent compiler in the back end that user Danny has two properties within it, one for ID and one for name. So from that point onwards, I can just select name as an example, and I can just actually say Danny from Enosculate, because I want to adapt the name at a later point. So that's almost the way in which I can then affect that particular variable. So once we've then assigned into that variable, how can we access it? Well, the answer is in exactly the same way. So in this instance, let's create a call to print. So I want to be able to see exactly what is within user Danny's name, and I can just simply pass into it user.danny.name, and that should, when we go down to the terminal, we know that there's no particular issues against this, and we run that particular script. As soon as it's executed, we'll be able to see that Danny from Enosculate gets printed out to the terminal as it does. So really what we've therefore got is the definition of a table. We've been able to take two different variables and we've been able to aggregate it into one variable, and we can set it and we can get to it as well, which is all really, really useful stuff. It's a really good way of organising our data in structures, and that's fundamentally exactly what tables are about. So at the moment we've kind of moved from two variables into one, so we've collapsed those down, but what we haven't dealt with was the first problem that I did talk to you about, was actually being able to use those variables in a way that meant that we could have a dynamic amount of users, and that's the topic of another discussion that we'll probably we'll put up on YouTube maybe tomorrow, and that's how we can use our tables in terms of maps and also lists as well, so we can add to our table as we go forwards. That's really it for today, so go ahead, give it a try, and take all your variables and organise them into a different structured way of working. Head over to LuaScript.dev for more information on LuaScript. I hope you enjoyed the video today. Thank you very much for viewing it. Please don't forget, subscribe to our YouTube channel, click the link down below, and make sure that you get all the notifications on updates that we do. As always, if you're into financial market trading at all, then please head over to script.trading, where you can turn your trading plan into an algorithm using our LuaScript software. Thank you very much for today. I hope you're all well, and I'll see you soon.